Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast, a podcasting community by estate professionals for estate professionals, where we share the ideas and the access to people that help you work less, earn more, and do good in your community. If you get value in this free content, be sure to check out estateprofessionalsmastermind.com, where you can get live classes, access to weekly coaching, and free courses. To learn more, you can visit estateprofessionalsmastermind.com. Let's jump into this week's episode.
Good morning or good afternoon, where you are. Welcome to our ProbateMastery.com weekly coaching call for real estate agents and brokers. I'm Bill Gross, real estate broker, Los Angeles, California. Practicing in the real estate. I'm not a full-time coach. I'm not a salesperson of this product. I am a guy who uses this. Chad's been my coach for 4 years, and I've built a fantastic business as a result. Really life-changing experience. And do this every day. Just closed the deal right now, got confirmation, got another one closing this week. Trying to get another listing signed today. So that's the business I'm in every day. Probate is the lead generation activities I use to generate my business, though half of it turns out not to be a probate business because the business creates more business and happy customers and such. But all my lead generations are probate. And all this is based on, the goal here of this call is that mastery is not a destination, but a process. And when you find people who are the best at their craft, they're constantly learning, trying to get better, learning tips, sharing from other experts. And so I came on this call every week as a subscriber. And when Chad had some personal challenges, I filled in for him and he asked me to take it over. And so I have for the last period of time. But I do this because I need this. I need to learn. I need to improve. I need to hold myself accountable. I want to do better and sell more houses and build a better business. And so by working with you, my hope is to do that. So we want to be here today to encourage each other, what's working, what's not working, share problems, share best practices, and then make sure we're aware of the product. Just a quick overview of what is available to and who we are and where this comes from. So let's see here. Probate Mastery is Chad Corbett's program, signature program. But there's 3 different programs you might be aware of. One is for free, my favorite program, free $99. Lifestyle Career Design, which really is kind of explains where Chad comes from, and I think all this fits into place if you start there. And the second is the Probate Mastery certification course. I believe everyone on this call has had it. If not, you're taking the coaching. This makes sense to me as the next step. It's not about being certified, to be honest about it. I see attorneys all the time make fun of probate certification, and many deservedly so. Many should be ridiculed. From my experience, while you do it for the certificate, you really end up with a understanding of the process and where to come from via service with customers, which to me is way more important than the certification. And then it's funny because I had the same certification I got 4 years ago, and even though that company's not Chad's, I was just too lazy to change it, I guess, in my email. And third is earn attorney referrals now. Specifically, I'm working with attorneys. I'm one of the teachers in that program. But I'm not selling it. I'm just more sharing it with you guys. Fantastic program. Definitely worth your attention. If you're in this call for free, there's a Facebook group, Estate Professionals Mastermind. We have 6,600 members nationally, and come in here and ask questions. Here's a look at the mastermind with agents outside the San Diego area. Let's see, newest activity. Let's see what we got here. But anyhow, we got people who post stuff there, and feel free to jump in and ask questions. And there's a listing. There is Miriam sharing her success. There's a question that comes up, so we get these things. And then separately, just for self-promotion, if you would indulge me, I host probateweekly.com every Thursday at 4 o'clock. My program is interview-based, where I bring in experts in the field and interview them. You can see past episodes at episodes.probateweekly.com. And then I as well have my own Facebook group. I'll bring that up, which is called Probate Experts. And we have about 2,600 members there and growing. Love to have you participate if you're interested in joining there. People ask questions and such there. So there you go. There's the overview. But again, this is meant to be participative. This is really, the idea is to be a coaching product that you can benefit from if you're an alum of the Probate Mastery course or you're in the coaching program. Bring your victories, bring your failures, bring your challenges and successes. How can we help you? So feel free to unmute yourself and jump in or raise your hand or put in the chat box. Who's got a challenge or a victory you want to share with us today? Nobody? There you go. Stan.
I'll go.
There you go.
So I got a client that I'm working with, got him on the phone a couple weeks ago, talked to him probably at least a couple times each week. So what happened is mom died unexpectedly, and she didn't have a will, is where everything gets really hairy. So she didn't have a will. At first he thought, and she has a home. At first he thought he was going to move into it, realized he couldn't afford it. And then when she died, I think she died at the end of February, he thought he could do everything on his own, didn't get an attorney. And so unfortunately, he wasn't making the house payments either. So now he just recently got an attorney. They're trying to figure things out, but he has agreed to sell me the home. And we'd like to do it owner financing, but we're trying to figure out how we can get the house into his name so that he can do that without the will and anything like that. Any suggestions on that?
I take it by the question, you're an investor, not a real estate agent, at least in this case.
Whoop, I lost you there for a minute.
So I take it that you're an investor. Are you primarily an investor, not a realtor, or just in this particular case?
Just this particular case. Yeah, I kind of do all of it. Private investing, realtor, and obviously my niche is the probate side.
Got it. And what state is this property in?
Washington State.
I think that's a great question, but it differs based on where you are. If you're in California, I would say to you that you need to get the property, whether you have a will or not, is really irrelevant. Again, I'm going to speak to California law, but in most states it's also true. The will doesn't determine if you need to go probate or not. The will is a tool that in the probate process, if you have it, gives certain direction. Absent the will, there's state law that has defaults as to how things get done. And so the fact you have a will, I don't think is an issue. Whether you have to have a probate or not is more going to be a function of, who this person is in relation to the decedent, and are there other heirs as well. So in a case, oftentimes I get these cases where there's no other heirs, meaning the probate would be fairly efficient. And as an investor, you might either want to buy out the interest from the heir, but you need them to cooperate. Excuse me. Or, I should have put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Or I would say you can help them through the probate process. As a real estate agent, I do a lot of that. I do a lot of, let me help you through the probate process by introducing you to a great realtor and a great probate attorney, and getting them the right probate attorney as opposed to just a probate attorney. I use some services to streamline because it cut the costs. So you might want to look into trustandwill.com, has a low cost probate division. In California, it's capped at $5,000, but there's a self-help process is about $1,300. I also give you to my channel, the Probate Pro, who works multiple states as well. So there's a couple options that you might want to look into. Does that help a little bit?
Definitely. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Deb. Okay, next up, hand up, Sherry Lynn. Let's get you unmuted and we'll bring you in. Let's see here. Well, eye candy this morning. Sherry, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. I'm just going to lower my hand here. Okay, so wanted to follow up from last week. I shared that there was a young man in our area that was gone missing. And I was concerned about him, but also his wife. He has a child that's 3 and one that's 1, so very young family. And I was curious as to what would happen to her if he was not found, and what that would look like for her going forward as a widow, but not a widow. Anyway, he was found, and so we're all grateful for that. He was gone for a week, and there's still questions around that. However, what I discovered was that she would have to wait like 7 years. He would have to be missing for like 7 years before he's pronounced dead, which means she would not get any of the benefits or access to anything that she would if he were found. So you asked me to follow up on that and let you know what I discovered. So there's that.
Thanks for sharing that. It laws vary by state. And the question really is, what happens if somebody is missing? One, what do you have to do to pronounce them dead? Answer, according to Sherry's findings in Texas are you have to wait 7 years, then you file. In California, we have two different procedures. There's a probate procedure and I think the other one's a civil court, where because there might be occasions where there's an urgency that somebody has to act to protect the estate. If there's another parent, not so much, but imagine both parents are missing, and you have kids, who's paying the bills, who's making decisions for schooling and health decisions and all that. And so there is a process for temporary status, a temporary conservatorship. There's two conservatorships. One's when you're incapacitated, the other one is civilly acting as if you're not around anymore until you are, if there's urgent matters that be taken care of. So again, varies by state. Sherry, thank you for reporting back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and conservatorship might have applied in this case also but the mom was around. Yeah. Also wanted to share that I've started going to court and probate court. And so in Harris County, where Houston is, it's all by Zoom, but I'm in Montgomery County, just north of Houston. And so we do have the option to go in person. I was the only person in the court. And so I got a lot of attention from the other people that were there, and which was basically the bailiff, the judge, and the court reporter. But anyway, it was fun in between the dockets because we were chatting and it was very relaxed. And they were just so curious that I would even be there and giving up some of my time to want to learn about probate. And the judge especially was like, I keep inviting people to come because how else are they going to learn unless they go through it themselves? So thank you for encouraging us to do that, Bill.
Sure.
And then last week I got a call thirdly from a woman in Georgia concerned about a situation that her family is going through. Property is here in Houston. She was married for 38 years, and she says her husband went crazy and left to come back to Houston to live with mom, his mother, her mother-in-law. Mother-in-law got very upset and with her son and wanted to write him off the will. She talks to the daughter-in-law in Georgia every day, or did, passed away recently. So in the will, she decided to leave the daughter-in-law her life insurance benefits, and then divided the will equally between her 2 sons and her 4 grandkids. One of the granddaughters is 29 and is listed as the executor supposedly on the will. No one has seen a copy of the will. And the granddaughter and the ex-husband who went crazy is living in the house. The granddaughter came in and took all of the paperwork. So there's no one has seen a copy of the will except for her. She's living with a boyfriend who is very persuasive and salesy like. And so they are trying to get power of attorney of the man who's living in grandma's house, which, the ex-husband, and trying to get him to sign paperwork. She's trying to get the people from California and Georgia to come do a reading of the will, and she keeps telling people that she's on their side. So there's a lot of confusion around what she's also on grandma's bank accounts. So there's some confusion around what she's doing. Is it appropriate or not? What sides need to be taken? Grandma was really clear here on what she wanted. So I was able to refer them to some of my attorneys that are in my network, and they're super appreciative of what I have to offer them, and they just can't get over that they just happen to find someone like me willing to help them through this. So that's pretty exciting. Feels good.
Good for you. That's exciting. I think some of these cases get a little dramatic, and you have to figure out, well, what's your place in this. And I think the answer is sometimes just to listen and to direct them to an expert in the area. In California, there's a legal requirement for if somebody's going to file probate, to file the will, and the will becomes public record. So sometimes you'll find the executor will get the will, they don't like it, and they'll get rid of it. And the idea that they're thinking is, well, that will solve ever from filing probate. And the answer is no. In California, anybody can file probate. There's a prioritization of who would be appointed administrator. Right. So sometimes people on their own come up with these legal ideas that don't really work out over time. And that's why getting somebody who knows what they're doing involved is really important. So good job, Sherry. Thanks for sharing all that with us.
Just one other thing about that was, as I was talking to them about trying to get a copy of this, because they're willing to come to Texas if they need to, but they would rather not come blindly. Like, what's in the will that we need to know about before we get there? Maybe we want to talk to an attorney or whatever. So we looked online on our public records and found that Grandpa's will was there. And then assuming that he and Grandpa made their wills at the same time, he's reaching out to that attorney today to see if he also did Grandma's will, and if there's a possibility of having a copy of that in that attorney's office. So it's possible if the cousin won't submit the will, at least they can see what's there through this other means. So that was fun to think about that.
Find out what the normal practice is in Texas. When I was a kid, my father was an attorney. He didn't do wills, but one of his partners did. And they had a room where all the wills were filed. Because in the old days, I think that's kind of what attorneys did. I think what happened was, over time, enough attorneys got sued because there's a copy of the will, there's another copy, which one's the original copy, and they got dragged into it. Where my experience now is most attorneys say, we don't keep a copy of the will. We might have a copy of the draft, but we don't know if that's the final draft, if they took it on their own, if they signed it or not. They still don't keep the originals. That's the normal practice in California. There are some attorneys that will store the will. There are also attorneys that provide a service where you electronically file the will, and that way keeps the documents record available. But find out what the normal is, in Texas. Do normally attorneys keep documents? Do they normally not keep documents? Do they accept electronic versions and records, which obviously makes it easier for everybody? So at least you can find out. I think it's a good thing for you to know for the next time you get asked about that.
Yeah, I know that our attorney keeps a copy of ours. Yeah, and so it's worth asking. And these wills were written up back in like the 90s, so it's possible. But anyway, just wanted to give you those updates on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you myself. I had a trust done years ago, and also I was like, oh my gosh, where the heck is that? I thought it was in that drawer. It's not there. And you realize that responsibility is big, and I think that it makes sense for an attorney to do that. I just think California's so litigious that attorneys get out of that practice. I don't think that's common. So you're saying that your attorney does. That's interesting to know. Anybody else knows the answer in other states, I'd be all ears. Sherry, thank you so much for sharing.
You bet. Thanks.
Okay. Questions in the chat box. I don't know, Dave says he can't. Oh, sorry, let me go back here 1 second. Where am I? Dave says, any opinions on the SRES designation? Can't talk. Okay. So SRES is a designation that's offered through the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, called Seniors Real Estate Specialist. I'm sure any class you take is helpful and education you get is of benefit. I think the mistake agents make is they assume the value is in the designation. The value is in the knowledge. And to the extent that this teaches you something, that helps you learn how to be more effective in working with your customers, I think is great. And it's one of those things that I think, seniors have different needs, being a senior myself, but don't take it if you think that being on their referral list is going to get you business. I just don't think that ever really pays for itself. And I see so many programs market on join us as a referral source. They come across as slimy because they're selling so many memberships that they would never have enough referrals for everybody who signed up. So again, I would say it's a great area to learn about. I think it's a growing area, obviously, as our population ages. And specializing, I think, is great, but I wouldn't expect the designation to be of value, more the education, as well as the content. Going through the education will give you different information that you can use to post. And I think if you're able to specialize in senior centers, senior projects, design of property appropriate for seniors, to the extent that you learn those areas, I think it's great if that's the area you want to specialize in. That's my personal opinion. But so I don't have the designation. I haven't taken the time to do that. I do learn a lot. I read a lot. I go in different programs and trainings. That's just not one that I am a senior. I figure if I can't figure out how to offer product to myself, then it doesn't make much sense. Okay. Dave also recommended that checking your state offers affidavit of heirship and the closing attorney. So there are states that you can avoid. This goes back to the question that we had about helping Stan when you found a property and there's an heir. Is there an affidavit of heirship? And we have affidavits in California below a certain dollar amount, I think below 167 or something. And so small bank accounts, pieces of land. But generally speaking, most states don't do that for real estate, most states, because it's a public record and they have to record the documents, there's title insurance included. But some states do, so check with your closing attorney and see if they can help you with that. And that's good for anybody in any state, and feel free to report back here. Dave says he's in Tennessee. I would imagine laws are more lenient on these matters in states like Tennessee. They're less regulated than, say, California or Florida or probably even Texas. But also chimed in on SRES. It's only a designation that elder attorneys and senior living facility managers have ever been taught to recognize. You know, it's funny you say that because in my experience, they don't really distinguish between any of the designations. They just say, you know, an expert. And I think that my experience is that the certificate gives you the confidence that nobody will ask you about it ever again. That's my experience. I know, I think I've told the story before where I had an attorney who asked me about my experience in probate. And that's when I got into the probate class with Chad. And I'd never been asked that ever again. And it wasn't that I became super experienced, you know, day 1 or day 31, but once I took the class, I had more confidence. I came across as an expert. I think that's why nobody ever asked me about it ever again. But he says an easy program online 2-day course. Okay, good. It's something worth looking into for sure. And then, yes, Dave points out that SRS is often offered locally, and that gives you continuing education credits. Okay, and you get a free donut at the local course. But pointing out that often at realtor events we get free donuts. True. So, but I don't think that's a reason to spend 2 days in training to get 8 donuts. We need at least 2 donuts personally. So anyhow, okay, good. So that's all the questions in the chat box. Who else has a question or a challenge or a victory? Sherry Lynn, long time to talk to.
I just thought I would jump on about the affidavit of heirship. I had a real estate agent here tell me she never has her clients go to probate because they can take care of it all through an affidavit of heirship. And then I've had other attorneys tell me that that's a temporary Band-Aid that is something that is available to help clear so that a property can be sold, but there are some contingencies on that. And so it's obviously not the right solution in most situations. So that real estate agent was in error in having all of her clients go through rather avoid probate by getting an affidavit of heirship. So maybe different in other states, but just thought I'd throw that out.
So thank you. And I think if you go online and you search affidavit of heirship in your state, you're going to find some specific requirements. In California, we can do that up to $184,000, not for real property. You do for personal property, which include a motor home that's not attached to the ground, for example, or bank accounts. But different states have different rules. There are states that will accept that and transfer the property fully. It's a minority of states, and I think they tend to be like Tennessee and what I would think of as less regulated, more rural type states than New York, California, Florida, Texas, Michigan. But you know, your job is to be the expert in your market. So I would say for each of you individually, Google search affidavits of heirship in your state and see what pops up and learn about that and see if there's videos on it. And if not, make one. You know, I'm reminded of the movie Catch Me If You Can with
Matt Damon and Tom Hanks.
No, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. That's
where
it.
he plays the guy who ends up being the captain on the I think it was TWA or one of the airlines. And they asked him the question, how did you pass yourself off when you were in high school? How did you pass yourself up as a high school teacher? He said, well, he just read one chapter ahead of where the kids were. And in really, a probate expert is just taking the time to learn something that your customers don't know and then sharing that with them. And our strength as realtors is learning how to communicate effectively with our customers, things that maybe attorneys know the information but aren't effective in communicating or don't take the time to communicate. And so I'd say look up affidavit of heirship and talk about it. And I'm literally going to do the same thing. I'm going to, at some point we're done today, I'm going to shoot a short video on affidavit of heirship and how it applies in California. I can ask from time to time, and that way I can just send a video rather than walk through and explain that. But I think all of us have that opportunity. Okay, good. Sherry, thank you so much. Again, Sherry Lund is my assistant today, and I'm going to give you half my salary for this phone call, Sherry. Thanks so much. I'll give you twice what I get. How's that? Take my pay. McKenna, please take my paycheck for this call and then multiply it by 2 and give that to Sherry, please. Thank you so much. Okay, and just FYI, the bottom question on my chat box is I'll get a free donut, and my mind just goes nuts when I see that. So please, God, somebody put something in the chat box just so that goes away. And we'll look at free donuts, or I'm going to go into a bunch of CE classes just to get the donuts. Okay, we don't have to go a whole hour, but I'm available. Who has a question, challenge, problem, victory you want to share with us today? I'll just show you that I closed a deal today that I had sold the seller a property in probate a couple of years ago, where in LA, we have a lot of court confirmed sales. And I have an investor who bought one a year ago. He bought about 3 years ago, flipped it, made a profit, moved out of his unit into the property that we flipped. And I listed that and sold that condo, but he also owned a second condo in the same building, and he just had me list it recently, and I just sold that. And so I did one probate sale, but I got 2 condo listings that have sold as a result that were not probate from that one investor. And so often people ask me how much of a business is probate. I have to kind of think about it, and I'll say all of my lead generation is focused on probate business. As a result of my probate business, I get a lot of non-probate real estate that I sell as well. And so that's something you have to think about. People who know you as an expert, we think if we position ourselves as a probate expert, we'll lose out on the other business. It's the opposite. If they know you're an expert in one field, they're going to assume you know the basics in other fields and use you for that as well. Okay, so any other questions, challenges, problems, victories?
Hey, Bill, I have a question.
Sure.
Or a statement, I guess.
Okay.
I have recently started my probate Facebook group.
Good for you.
And I did do a post. Oh, thank you. I did a post in Probate Mastery asking if some folks could join before I start inviting PRs and others to join. I was only able to get about 4 people. So if there's anyone here who wouldn't mind clicking on that link and joining my group, I would definitely appreciate it.
Where's the link?
It's in the Probate Mastery group.
Well, okay, hold on here. Let's promote it now. What's the name of the group?
Riverside County Probate Support.
Probate Support.
Sherry, I'm in California.
Okay, so what I'll say, okay, so Riverside County Probate Support, and there it is. And I'm not a member. I'm gonna go ahead and join. So I'm sorry, my phone's not quiet. Sorry about that. So, okay, I joined Riverside County Probate Support. And Trina, one good way to do that, promoting a group, is go in other groups. Probate Mastery would be one. And I would say also my group, Probate Experts, go in there and promote it. And we'd love to support each other. You know, we haven't met before, have we, Trina?
We've talked before. Yeah, when I had a friend who was having an issue with probate, and you referred a couple of attorneys to me. Okay,
got my memory. Anyhow, what I would say is that we as agents can be so much help to each other. You know, the essence of realtors, of the term realtor, as opposed to real estate agent, is cooperation. The MLS is nothing more than agents saying, hey, you know what, I have listings, you have listings, let's put them together on a book and we'll sell each other's listings, and we'll let all the other agents sell our listings too, and supporting each other. And I think with social media is another example where I have a Facebook group. I love having other realtors, even though technically you kind of compete with me. I mean, I've sold property in Riverside County, and I'm sure you would sell property in LA. People who know and like me are not going to come off of me just to go to you and vice versa. So it's not like we're really direct competitors in a sense. And then we have other people who won't work with me that might like you because I'm not in Riverside and you are, whatever the reasons are. And so it gives us a chance to amplify our messaging. We all are trying to get attention as realtors, and social media is one where we need to work together. You want to think about how you bring something of value to the party. How do you help everybody else in the group so that they'll want to participate in your group? And so all of us should be looking at Probate Mastery, and rather than posting, hey, see me and like me, post something of value about your market. You know, probate court. Is probate court in Riverside, is it fully open or is it all on Zoom?
It is fully open. Oh, and
well,
since you bring that up, okay, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish.
Well, I wasn't really asking. I'm just saying, put that in the Probate Mastery group. You know, share, bring some information in. How many probates are there a month in Riverside County? How do you require court confirmation or not? How many do or don't? Whatever you learn, share with us in the group, and that way you become of value to everybody. And then, oh, by the way, I have my own Facebook group. You know, I appreciate if you join here, or you want more information like this, you know, come to my group. And so I'm just kind of urging everybody, don't just go into the Probate Mastery group and say, hey, here's my YouTube channel, here's my Facebook group. Bring value in it. In Gary Vaynerchuk says, you know, it's jab, 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 punch. You should have like 9 or 10 pieces of value before you ask for something. But you should be contributing in those groups and then asking people, hey, by the way, I have my own Facebook group or my own YouTube channel, and please, you know, I'd appreciate if you support it. I do the same thing. I have a YouTube channel. I try to post other stuff in other people's group of value, and then people as a result have subscribed, and that's why I have a Facebook group with 2,600 people in it, because I consistently try to put value first. So anyhow, I'm sorry, Trina, just wanted to say to everybody on the call here, let's all help each other.
No. Actually, you kind of hit on what I was going to say next, so I appreciate that. Because I have started going to the courts, mostly by Zoom. I've only been one time in person, but as far as video content, so posting the things that I've learned, even just the stories that I hear of the families of the fights that they've been going through. I mean, there was one family who's been going through probate for, the last 5 years because they can't seem to agree, and, the beneficiaries are objecting to the executor, and just, huge fights, and a mother who can't even get her son's remains because the woman her son was married to died before they got their divorce, things like that. So that would make good content.
Well, quick show of hands here. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Would that be something you might be interested in learning more about? I'd say thumbs up. Right? I think those stories and knowing that's normal, and I think sharing your path, your process along the way is helpful for everybody here. I think we would all appreciate that. So definitely, okay. I'd post those in the estate. I don't want to say wrong here. Technically, it's the State Professionals Mastermind Group. Yeah, I would post it there. I think learning your journey, what you do when you go to court in person. You can't video typically. I can't speak to Riverside, but in general, you can't record inside the court and you can't take pictures in the court. But you can on the court steps, and it's kind of dramatic. And it's usually a nice scene, and people are wondering, what are you doing? And so I find when I go to court, I always try to get at least 1 or 2 videos on the court steps. People find those really interesting and helpful. And Sherry, she's in California. She's in Riverside County, California. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for jumping in, and join her Facebook group again, Riverside County Probate. I applied. She hasn't approved me yet. I hope she'll approve me. $5, Trina. What's it going to take to get in your group?
Yes, $5 will do it.
Okay, there you go.
Maybe just a donut, right?
Oh, look at you. Okay, so the donut. Okay, well, my donut is at the realtor board meeting. I'm not going to go to, so go down there and pick it up for me. Okay. Thanks so much.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, that's just, well, no, Sharon, I hope you didn't join you. I hope you applied. If you got approved before me, I'm going to be pissed. I hope you applied, because I applied before you, I think. If I find out you're a member, I'm not. I'm really going to be very frustrated. Okay, but we should all join each other's Facebook groups and learn from each other and post content that are of interest. And my YouTube channel, at Bill Gross EXP, I post stuff all the time. hopefully you find that helpful and interesting, and share it with other people. And we're not really going to be competitors. I think hopefully we can all work together and help each other's business. Look, if just we as a group band together, there's 29 of us on the call today. If just we band together, we put all the other agents out of business, I'd be fine with that. So, okay, any other questions, challenges? Thank you, Trina, for jumping in. Sherry's been a great contributor today.
I do, Bill.
Okay, good. So what's going on?
Hey, good morning, Bill. Hey, so I have been tasked, I need some help here, maybe some guidance. I've been tasked with reaching out to a lawyer, and I've never actually reached out to a probate lawyer. I know they're just people, but I've been tasked to reach out.
No, they're not people. They're lawyers. They're not people.
The lawyers, you're right. So I'm just, I want to do it right, and I don't want to mess things up from my client, which the lawyer is his client as well. And I'm reaching out because he has a letter that the lawyer gave him that says there's a lien, a possible lien, because I actually read the letter. And before we communicated, or before we made face-to-face contact, he had told me there's a lien on the property. So I did a title search, and I even talked to the title agent. I said, hey, there's a lien on this. She said no. She double-checked. There's no lien. And after looking at the letter, it's evident that it's essentially a threat for a lien to be put on the property by a state entity for medical bills. But there is no lien on the property. So what I've been tasked with was to ask the lawyer, hey, so what happens if we sell this property now before this lien actually goes into effect, and essentially get it done before it happens. Although after reading the letter, it says they have intent to put a lien. So does that stop the wheels from rolling for the sale, or how do I reach out to the lawyer? I want to do it right. And talk of my client's behalf, which is his client as well.
Great.
So how do you recommend doing that?
Great question, Saul, about liens specifically, state agency medical liens. And you're in the state of Washington, correct?
Yes.
So in the federal government has two programs for medical care. One is Medicare, which is like Social Security. Everybody pays into it, and everybody is entitled to it when you're 65 or older. In fact, it's almost, I don't know who else on the call besides who's like me I'm not over 65, my wife is, I'm about to be. You almost can't get insurance at 65 or older because Medicare kind of put it out of business. I don't know if there's an Obamacare change or whatever, but Medicare is kind of the standard insurance that most people at 65 or older have, and you can buy supplemental policies on top of that. Medicaid is a federal government program, but that is administered state by state with different names. So in California, Medicaid, which is a low-income medical care program, is called Medi-Cal, as in California. So I suspect there's a program equivalent in the state of Washington. It's a Medicaid program for the state of Washington. You need to find what that is. Okay. What happens in probate is specifically it's designed. It's interesting because probate is designed for everybody but the heirs. Everybody gets paid first, and everybody has priority: attorneys, the court, and creditors, and only what's left goes to the heirs. And so in most states, I can't speak to Washington, but in most states, there's a process by which you notify the world by publication, this person died, and if he owes you money, raise your hand now. There's a time period by which they have to notify and you'll see credit card companies, mortgage companies, and car loan companies or whatever, lawsuits will pop in, and Medicaid claims in California, Medi-Cal claims will come in. Judges will often ask questions about the person's care at the end of their life. Were they in hospital? They have medical expenses, and do they have private insurance, or do they use the equivalent in California's Medi-Cal insurance? And then there's certain centers besides hospitals, like rehab centers and skilled nursing facilities people go to that are paid through sometimes Medicaid or Medi-Cal in California. So you might want to find out about your client and what their medical needs were at the end of their life and how they're paid for, and verify if they're paid through the state. My guess is you get a letter The state knows the answer. They know that he was passed, and there's probably no way to avoid that because normally probate would require proof that you noticed all the creditors and that that lien wasn't filed. So my guess is you probably can't avoid that. What I'd recommend is learn about that process in your state, the name of the product, and talk to a state probate attorney on what's the process by which creditors are notified. How long do you have to wait, and from what date? Is it from the date of the court granting letters? Is it from the date of the publication? How long do you have to wait, and what triggers that date? After a certain date, there's not much they can do. Now, if the probate is still open, they can always plead to the judge. So, for example, if the statute of limitations on a credit card is up, they can still appeal to the court and ask to get paid, and they might get it. But there's a period after which you can close the probate, then they're out of luck.
Right.
Another reason why, this is why often executors and petitioners or administrators and executors or trustees will have insurance, because a claim can be made, hey, you didn't properly notify, you didn't properly put the notice that this person passed, and as a result, we don't get paid on our claim, so we're going to come back after you. Or you should have waited longer before you distribute the funds, so we could have gotten paid. So that's why we have probate bonds in most states, is to cover that. So, if it was me, I'd want to learn about those things so I can become the expert in those areas. I would say reach out, find out who your attorney plans to use or have used already, issue the probate bond. That company can be helpful with this. And also ask your probate attorney, and if yours doesn't know because he's not knowledgeable, find one who is in your state and ask them the questions of the notice to creditors, what's the time period for creditors, is the time period include Medicaid in your state, and then you'll know everything there is about those items and be able to be the expert in that. Does that help a little bit?
That helps a lot.
Fantastic. And then Saul, please bring back the answer next week. Come back on the call, give us an update of what you found out.
Okay. So,
Okay.
so along with that question, since you brought it up, is the personal representative one of the first persons to get paid also?
No, they're the last.
They're the last.
Well, let me clarify. I only know the law and procedures in California, clearly. In California, the attorney, the administrator, executor, if they're charging a fee for the service, and the heirs don't get paid until the court approves the final distribution. So what happens is there's a time period, and there's other creditors, and the estate might pay certain bills to protect the assets. It might pay the mortgage or property taxes or insurance or whatever's needed to keep the estate going. And then at the end, they will say, okay, now judge, we're done. Here's the accounting. Here's all the money we got in. Here's all the money we paid out. Here's what's left. Here's how we're supposed to pay it. This much to the attorney, this much to the administrator, executor, if any, this much to the heirs. And the judge says, fine, approved. And then those checks are cut. But the heirs and the attorney fees, not the attorney expenses, attorney fees, and the fees to the executor or the administrator don't get distributed to the end of the probate at the distribution at the very end.
Okay.
Now, that's why I use probate advances to advance money ahead if they need some cash or want some cash. I have clients who are going to get $500,000 a year from now, but they can get $10,000 now to use for the expenses of the probate or managing the property or whatever else they might need.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I get that.
Anybody interested in learning more about probate advances, you can go to getprobate.cash is a program I have online. I do it every Wednesday morning, getprobate.cash. Be glad to go over that in detail. Okay? But so please learn about more about these and report back to us, okay?
Will do.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Terry says my interviews on my YouTube channel are great. Terry, thank you. I agree with you 100%. I think I'm good looking and charming. Feel free to go to episodes.probateweekly.com and you'll see the past people I've interviewed. Talking about the title officer I interviewed. Which title officer did I interview? I've been interviewed a couple. Always looking for more. Hey, any of you on this call, if you have an attorney you'd like to have interviewed on my channel, I'm always looking for more attorneys or vendors. If there's anybody who's national in scope, title company, everybody else love to. Terry says, I know they're Arizona members. It's different California. He suggests for learning the ins and outs quickly of Arizona. So Terry's looking to kind of create a little mastermind of Arizona questions. Terry, I would create a Facebook page for yourself in Arizona probate experts, and post that question in the Probate Mastery in my group and see if there's other members that would join there. Is cash available in Arizona for probate cash? Yes, Terry, for sure. I've done it in Arizona. In fact, I interviewed attorney Rylas Dana, great attorney. He has a mastermind of attorneys. They thought I invented fire when I explained to them the possibility of getting money, because sometimes customers will choose attorneys based on the upfront costs. Some charge nothing. Some want to collect the fees, which should be a couple $1,000s, and that will discourage some customers. And I said, well, why even bother with that? Offer them the probate advance, and then get additional money as well as those fees. And to me, it's just a great way to help attorneys build their business. And I think most importantly, help customers get the right attorney rather than just the one that takes the less money up front. Okay, I don't see other hands up. I don't see any other questions in the chat box I didn't get to. Anybody else have any questions, challenges before we run? No? Okay, well, I'll just do a quick run through then. Again, this is our weekly call as part of the Probate Mastery alumni, probatemastery.com. Which has a free program, which is lifestyle and career design. Definitely worth taking. Number 2, Probate Mastery certification. If you've taken that, that's the kind of the flagship program. You can be certified, but more importantly, learn the whole overview of the probate experience and how to build your business. And then earn attorney referrals now, learning how to get more business specifically from attorney referrals in the probate space. And then we have a Facebook group, Estate Professionals Mastermind, where you should ask questions as well as promote your own Facebook channels and talk about different, put your questions there to get some attention and eyeballs on that. And then I host probateweekly.com. You can see past episodes at episodes.probateweekly.com. And then I have a Facebook group, Probate Experts, with 2,700 members. Love to have you come in there and ask questions, and I get those all the time. So that's all I really have for today. We do this every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Bill Gross. You can find me on social media at Bill Gross EXP. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Call, text, email, and look forward to helping you guys. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week.